You don't need to have it all figured out to be walking in God's will. I want you to really sit with that sentence for a second, because I think a lot of us have been taught the opposite. We've been taught that confusion is a red flag. That if you don't know what you're doing with your life, your career, your relationships, your purpose, something must be wrong. Like maybe you missed a sign. Maybe you're outside of God's will. Maybe everyone else got a manual for life and you got left in the waiting room. I want to challenge that today, because I don't think confusion is the opposite of faith. I think sometimes confusion is exactly where faith is built. Let me take you to a story most of us know but rarely sit with long enough, the story of Joseph. Joseph was a teenager with a dream. Literally, God gave him dreams about his future, about leadership, about greatness. And what happened right after he got that vision? His brothers threw him into a pit, sold him into slavery. He ended up in Egypt, falsely accused, thrown into prison for years. Now here's what I want you to notice. Joseph had clarity about his calling, but he did not have clarity about his path. God showed him the destination, but not the road. And that road went through betrayal, slavery, and a prison cell. If Joseph were alive today, scrolling on his phone in that prison, I think he might have felt like a failure. Like maybe he misunderstood the dream. Like maybe he wasn't actually chosen for something great, because nothing about his current situation looked great. Maybe you had a dream for your life too. Maybe you had a moment where you felt certain about a relationship, a career, a calling, and then life didn't unfold the way you expected. And now you're sitting in your own version of the pit, wondering if you missed something. Here's what I want you to know: you didn't miss it. You're in the process. There's a verse many of us have heard quoted at graduations and youth conferences, Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. But here's what people leave out. That verse was written to a group of people in exile, in captivity, in a foreign land, confused about their future, wondering if God had abandoned his promises to them. God wasn't speaking those words into someone's dream vacation. He was speaking them into someone's confusion. That tells me something important. God's promises are not reserved for the seasons when everything makes sense. They are especially present in the seasons when nothing does. Confusion is not evidence that God has left the room. Confusion is often the room where God is doing his most important work, the work you can't see yet. Here's a trap I want to warn you about, especially if you're young and trying to figure out your life: the temptation to force clarity before it's time. When we're uncomfortable with not knowing, we tend to do one of two things. We either freeze, refusing to move at all until we get a clear sign, or we rush, making a decision just so we can feel like we're in control again, even if it's not actually the right decision. Neither of those is faith. Faith is being able to take the next step without demanding to see the whole staircase. Ecclesiastes 3 says there's a time for everything under heaven. A time to plant, a time to harvest, a time to keep, a time to let go. Your life is not supposed to be in harvest season every day. Some seasons are for planting quietly, where nothing looks like it's producing yet, but the roots are going down deep. If you are in a season where nothing is visibly changing, don't assume nothing is happening. Roots grow in the dark before anything grows in the light. So practically, what do you do when you're in a season of not knowing? First, stop demanding a 5-year plan and ask for next step. God rarely reveals the whole map. He reveals the next few feet in front of you. Joseph didn't know he'd end up second in command of Egypt when he was sitting in that prison cell. He just kept being faithful with what was in front of him, serving well, staying honest, staying close to God, one day at a time. Second, guard your heart from bitterness during the wait. It would have been easy for Joseph to become resentful toward his brothers, toward God, toward the unfairness of it all. But Scripture shows us a man who stayed tender, who stayed faithful even in prison. Confusion tests your character just as much as it tests your patience. Third, let community carry you when clarity won't come. You are not meant to sit in confusion completely alone. Talk to people you trust. Let someone speak truth over you when you can't see it yourself. And fourth, maybe most important, remember that confusion is not permanent. Joseph's pit was not his final chapter. His prison cell was not his final chapter. If you are in a hard chapter right now, I need you to hear this. It's a chapter, not the whole book. If you're watching this and you genuinely don't know what you're doing with your life right now, your career, your relationships, your calling, I want you to let go of the shame around that. Confusion is not a sign you're outside of God's will. Sometimes it's the exact evidence that you're right in the middle of it, in the part of the story that doesn't make sense yet. You don't need clarity to have peace. You need trust. So today, don't ask God for the whole map. Just ask Him for the next step. Take it. If this spoke to you, I want to hear from you. Comment where you're at right now, in your own season of confusion. And if you know someone who needs to hear this today, send it to them. They might be waiting on this exact message. I'll see you in the next one.